As we've mentioned several times, in April, voters across the 4 states will be dealing with a number of issues on the ballots. One of those right here in Joplin. We are on the record with Joplin City Manager Nick Edwards, Police Chief Richard Pearson. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. Let's start with you, Mr. Edwards. What exactly is the question that Joplin voters will see on the ballot?
Proposition Police and Fire will be on the April 7th ballot. It's a no tax increase proposition for Joplin voters. What it would do is create a permanent funding source for our public safety departments, specifically police, fire, and dispatch. We've got a number of exciting improvements that we want to make to those departments to improve services. And so if there's support, it could really help bolster these departments.
I want to go back to something you mentioned right there a moment ago. This is not a new tax. This is a continuation of something already in place.
That's right. The city has an existing sales tax that's been funding a pension obligation for the police and fire department. It's performed really well. It's about to meet its obligation, and so we want to continue that tax and make a dedicated investment into public safety. So the tax changes, but the rate doesn't, so it's a no tax increase item.
Chief Pearson, a word that Mr. Edwards used right there, an investment into the police department. If voters say yes, what does that investment look like in the Joplin Police Department?
Well, it will allow us to be competitive in the region because there's a critical shortage of police officers nationwide. So Joplin does a really good job of recruiting officers, training officers, giving officers great experience. And then these other police departments in our region see that, and they'll call our officers and say, hey, we'll offer you a lot more money to do a lot less work if you come and work for us. And we're losing our best and brightest, some of them, to these other agencies because of that. So this funding stream, which is ongoing, will allow us to be competitive as far as wages and benefits so that we don't lose all that homegrown talent. We can retain our experienced officers and they don't go to these other departments.
One of the things that strikes me when I look at this is there's a public safety component to it. I mean, obviously, you mentioned the officer pay, but it takes time to get these folks trained, and if something were to come up, having that already trained officer in place, that could make a big difference, couldn't it?
Sure. It takes about 5 minutes for an officer to resign or to go to, or to retire or to go to another department. All you have to do is sign a piece of paper and you're gone. It'll take me about 18 to 24 months to get that officer replaced, get him trained and up and running and being effective for the citizens of Joplin. So if we can keep the officers that we have, the guys who grew up in Joplin, who know the streets of Joplin, who know the people of Joplin, that's the best option. So this would be a way for us to make sure that that happens.
Switching back to you, Mr. Edwards. So I know there's a lot of nuts and bolts when it comes to city finance. How exactly would that work? The tax money comes in, and then is there a determined percentage for how it would be split between police and fire?
The city, we want to be transparent about this. We have a lot of public education material that's available for people that want to learn more about it. So we have a website. It's on the City of Joplin's webpage there, Prop Police and Fire, and in it you can see our spending plan. Those are the commitments that we're making with this new tax. So if it is approved, we will hire 9 additional officers, 6 additional firefighters, and make some much needed improvements to our facilities and our equipment. So we're making that commitment, and if this tax is supported, we will do those investments, just like we did with the current tax that's funded the Prop B pension plan that's been really successful. So we've made those commitments clear, and that's what the organization's committing to.
Chief Pearson, playing off something Mr. Edwards said right there, 9 new police officers. Help me put that in perspective. What would that mean for JPD?
It would mean a lot for JPD, but it would mean even more for the people of Joplin because the city is subdivided into what we call police beats. These are sub-geographic subdivisions of the city, and we place officers in each one of those geographic subdivisions so that officer is only responsible for handling that small area of town. So you keep an officer in your area of town at all times. If we can hire these additional 9 officers, we'll be able to go from 5 beats to 6 beats. And what that does for the citizens is it means decreased response times. So if you call the police department for whatever your needs may be, you will have an officer at your location much faster because we have more officers out on the streets riding the beats, and we have more beats to cover the city.
And you and I have talked about this before. There's that old adage, time is money, but time really could be the difference between, not to put too fine a point on it, but life and death in some situations.
Absolutely. For us, time isn't money, time is safety, time is security. If you call 911, seconds count. And if it takes us 2 extra minutes to get to your emergency, that could be the difference between life and death. So the faster we can respond to a citizen's call for service, call for help, the better off it is for us and for the citizen.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the police side of this, and we're going to get to the fire side of it here in a minute. But before we transition into that, I've got to ask you, Mr. Edwards, we've talked about what happens if the voters say yes. What happens if the voters say no?
Well, that's the difficult question. I think everyone can recognize what happens in a community when we have great public safety. If we have a safe community, if we don't have blight, things like that, we see investment, we see a thriving community. And so I think, if there's not support for this tax, the status quo is probably what we're looking at. We'll continue. It's a priority from the council to improve public safety, and we'll do everything that we can to strengthen our police and fire departments. We've made adjustments in the past. We've added additional staffing, we've made some pay improvements, but it just simply hasn't gone far enough, and that's why this tax is being proposed. And so I want to compliment our great men and women in the police and fire department. They show up each and every day with the citizens in mind. We know the citizens are on the top of our org chart, and they work hard in service of their community.
And I know we've mentioned this before, but I think it bears mentioning again. In talking with folks in the community, they ask about the tax, but it's not a new tax. It's not, if you vote yes, it's not that you're going to see that tax line go up. It stays where it's at.
I like to explain it this way. It's a continuation of a sales tax. The current tax is funding a pension obligation, and once that obligation's met, we would continue that tax to make this investment into public safety. So the rate doesn't change, and it would provide a dedicated funding source now and into the future, and that's really important for our officers and our firefighters to know that there's a certain level of stability in the way those departments are funded. And
I would think it might make it easier on your side of things. You know that funding source is there for the police department, for the fire department, something that even though you're trying to look into a crystal ball, it gives you something to project years down the road.
Yeah, sales tax here in Joplin, it's performed well. It hasn't, we haven't seen dramatic increases, but we feel confident in the funding that would be achieved through this tax, that it would be able to fund these commitments for many, many years. And I think that that's a strong signal to not just residents, but the business community that you can live here, you can invest here, you can bring your business here and know that you're in a safe community.
And Chief Pearson, I'm going to ask you, and it may be a question for Mr. Edwards, if the answer is yes, and voters say, yes, we want to do this, how quickly could we see the police department start moving on filling those 9 new positions?
Well, the pension obligations won't be fulfilled until late 2026, probably early 2027. So immediately after that, as soon as the pension obligations are fulfilled and this funding stream switches over to Proposition Police and Fire, we'll be able to start hiring because the money will start flowing in, and we'll be able to do some other things that we can't do right now. So it'll be, as soon as the pension is taken care of, we'll be good to go.
All right, gentlemen, I'll give you one last opportunity, Chief, before we go. Anything that from your mind that we haven't covered that the voters in Joplin need to know before they go and they give the yay or the nay to this question?
Well, as Mr. Edwards has said, this is going to be a no tax increase, so no one is going to realize any more money coming out of their pocketbook. That's something I think everybody is extremely interested in. Nobody likes paying taxes. I don't like paying taxes, but This is going to be something that provides increased public safety at no extra cost to the citizens. It's going to keep our best and brightest police officers and firefighters in Joplin providing the services that they've become accustomed to, that we want to continue to provide for Joplin. There's also the work-life balance aspect of this for police department and the fire department. We've got officers and firefighters working an extraordinary number of overtime hours in addition to their regular work hours. That's unsustainable. You can't ask a person to continue to work like that with no end in sight. So if we get this revenue stream coming in, we will be able to realize more firefighters coming into the city, more police officers coming into the city, so that workload is spread out across more officers and more firefighters, which, you know, provides light at the end of the tunnel, because some of the officers and firefighters that we have right now are really looking at this tax, and it's going to help them decide if they stay here or if they go somewhere else that's offering them more money for less work. They want to stay home in Joplin because this is where their family is, this is where they grew up, this is what they know. But, and I've said this before and I'll continue to say it, no matter how much you love your job or you hate your job, it is your job. It's how you pay your mortgage, it's how you feed your children, and everybody wants to do the best that they can for their families. So if we can provide a competitive pay rate for our police officers and our firefighters, they'll be much more apt to stay home and provide those services for their own family and friends and their own communities.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much for going on the record with us. In just a couple of moments, we're going to take a look at the fire side of this question. Don't go anywhere. We're back now. Fire Chief Gerald Ezel joining us. Chief, thanks for going on the record with us. We were talking with Chief Pearson a moment ago about what a yes vote on Proposition Police and Fire would look like for the police department, and I'm going to kind of ask you the same question.
Okay.
What would a yes vote look like on the fire side?
Well, we would have the ability to add 6 additional personnel. We have a fire station, Station 3, out at Newman in Florida, that's in desperate need of reconstruction. That building was constructed in 1980, and you know, it's just not serving its purpose anymore. It's really falling apart on us. We also have a need to replace one of our ladder trucks. Those come with a very hefty price tag. The price we got this past year was $2.4 million, which just seems astronomical to me, but we'll be able to replace that. We also have a need to replace a rescue truck that has been in service for quite a while. And then we would have the ability to put a bathroom facility up on our training grounds up there, which would serve police and fire at our training center.
There's several components to this that I want to ask you about, but I want to start with 6 new firefighters. I asked Chief Pearson this, and I'll ask you. 6 new firefighters, what would that mean for not just the department, but for the community?
Right, so the 6 firefighter positions we'd be looking at are actually going to be what we call swing personnel. And a swing person is that if you are a firefighter and you take a holiday, and I'm the swing firefighter, I'm going to take your place for the day whenever you're gone. So that would give us the ability to have 6 per shift, which just means that we have a better chance of staffing all of our trucks at full staffing for the day. I can tell you last year we had 30,500 hours of overtime. That is a lot when you start thinking about 24 hours at a time. We had 244 times where we had to look at somebody and say, you don't get to go home to your family today. So these 6 firefighter positions is going to give us, you know, along with some things that we're doing. I've got a committee looking at some scheduling changes. Right now we work 24 on, 48 off. We're looking to do something a little different and looking at several different options to try to provide a little more family time at home for our folks. You know, that work-life balance right now is really leaning heavily in the work side of things for our people right now. So these 6 firefighter positions will alleviate some of that for us.
Now, Mr. Edwards, I've got to ask you, there's a lot of moving parts to this. Chief has mentioned replacing trucks, a facility, hiring people. If I'm a voter and I'm trying to work this all out and see what that looks like on paper, you mentioned the website earlier. That's broken down on the website.
Yeah, the city's created a resource for people to go and get additional information if there's questions that they might have. We want to be really transparent about this. We want to be clear with the obligations that we're making with this funding. And so the city's web page /Prop Police and Fire We have a laundry list of frequently asked questions, other information, so that it's crystal clear to everybody what we're committing to as an organization.
Now, I want to drill down on a couple of things Chief mentioned a moment ago. Let's start with the trucks. I think it's obvious why you guys need the trucks, but walk me through that. If we don't replace those aging trucks, what does that mean for the department?
It means that our fleet maintenance supervisor is going to be super busy. He's a one-man band. We have one guy that works on all of our trucks here, does a phenomenal job. He tries to clear about 7 work orders every single day to keep these trucks up and running. We've been very blessed that we've been able to replace a lot of our frontline engines, but we have a group going up next week to do a pre-build on 2 that we ordered in 24. So that right there is the thing that kind of throws a big monkey wrench into the operations. It's taken 3 to 4 years for the manufacturers to build these apparatus for us. It makes it really hard to plan out. But the ladder trucks, they usually about 15 years frontline service is what you expect out of them, and we've got one that is over that now. So it is in need of replacement, and that's what this will do.
And you mentioned a facility in there as well. I'm just going to ask you bluntly, why? What is it that about that facility that puts it up there on that list that we need to do something?
Well, we did a repair a couple of years ago on the north side of our bay out there, because the wall on that side, the west wall of that station, was really cracking, and we have gaps in there that you can actually see daylight and almost see somebody pumping gas at the gas station next door to us from inside the building, not through a window, through a crack. So, and we have several locations in that station that have cracks in it.
And Mr. Edwards, I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this question, but I would imagine that if the city just tried to do this under the current budget, if you said we're going to replace these trucks, we're going to replace this facility, does that potentially create a bit of a juggling act with the city budget?
Certainly. The new tax, we estimate to generate around $10.5 million. So without that funding source, there's really no way of making those kinds of investments within our existing revenue stream. Our police and our fire departments already consume a large portion of the general fund, and so there's not that there's just not that funding there to make these kinds of improvements. It is a no tax increase, and so we're continuing one tax and then hoping to approve another, so that it's there's no change in rate, the tax rate. We're simply continuing an existing tax.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this several times, but I really do think that is a key component of this, that it's not an increase in anything. It's to borrow a phrase I believe you used a little bit ago, it's continuing the status quo as far as that tax is concerned.
Correct. The rate doesn't change. The impact to the citizen shouldn't change. But the service level, the improved public safety, that will be a dramatic change, and it will be important for the city's future.
You mentioned the city's future, and I just want to ask both of you gentlemen, again, not to put you on the spot with this, but I've lived in Joplin all my life. Joplin has grown in the 40 plus years that I've been in town, and there's no reason to believe it won't continue growing in the future. Does this allow the police and fire departments to grow with the city?
Oh, absolutely. I believe so. This addition of the 6 personnel, there is a need that's going to be in the future, in the not too distant future, where we're actually going to need another station with all the annexations that have happened in the city, which is great. The city needs to grow, and it is growing. But this revenue stream will be from now on. So, I mean, it's a recurring, revenue stream that the city can utilize for things of that nature, infrastructure and more personnel later on down the line.
I know we've kind of hit on this in a roundabout way, but I want to ask you a couple of questions I asked Chief Pearson a moment ago. What does a no vote look like from the fire department side? If the voters say no, we're going to pass on this, what would that look like for the fire department?
Well, it could really put us in a really bad spot. We are currently 8 people down, and I have 6 people up at the academy right now going through that training. And then, you know, with the amount of hours, the overtime hours that we worked last year, our folks are tired. We're seeing an uptick in sick time usage and FMLA, you name it, from everybody having babies to, you know, an injury of some type. So, you know, I really think our operations could be impacted in a bad way. I think I have a lot of people out there right now, a lot of our young firefighters, that are kind of waiting to see how this vote comes out and making a decision whether they're going to go somewhere else. You know, we're just like the police department. Our people are really sought after individuals. They're well trained, they're well versed in fire, and you know, we ran 9,980 calls this past year. That's the most ever in the department's history. It's almost to the point where if one of my young firefighters goes somewhere and says, hey, I work at Joplin, they say, sign on the dotted line, we'll put you on a truck tomorrow. I mean, because they know what they're doing. So, and I've watched several really good firefighters leave us just because they can go somewhere else and make more money and run less calls. So, yeah, I think the competitiveness this will provide for us is going to be substantial in keeping those well-trained individuals here. Almost every single individual that leaves and goes somewhere else looks at me and says, Chief, I love this department, I love the way it's run, and I love the, you know, the family atmosphere that we have here, but I have to look after my family. And man, I can't look down my nose at that. I mean, I understand that completely.
As we kind of bring this to an end, I want to ask both of you gentlemen the same question I asked Chief Pearson. Chief, I'll start with you. Last thing, what do voters need to know? Is there anything else in your mind that we haven't hit on here that they need to know before they head to the polls?
Realistically, here's what I can tell you about the Joplin Fire Department. The men and women of this department are committed to this community. You know, that should be very obvious from the amount of overtime hours that were worked last year. 30,500 hours of overtime is just beyond my realm of comprehension, but the men and women of the department come in every day and we have one goal in mind, and that's the way it goes from the top to the bottom. We want to provide that compassionate customer service to our citizens and our visitors that come into this city. So, you know, what they're looking for right now is the support and for them to be a more competitive department regionally. And I think that's about it.
Mr. Edwards, anything from your perspective we haven't hit on?
Well, I'd just like to say I consider Proposition Police and Fire an investment. If it's supported, we'll be able to strengthen public safety services, and that is phenomenally important to citizens, to businesses, to families, that we have a safe community. And when we have a safe community, I think we'll see other opportunities come forward, and then we're thriving and doing great things. And so this is foundational for us, and if there are questions that haven't been answered, I'm certainly willing to answer those, and we do have that public education material available online. We want to make sure that this is well understood and the citizens understand the commitment that's being made.
All right, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for going on the record with us. That question on the April 7th ballot.